Welcome to a set of videos that I'm affectionately labeling Sourdough for Dummies. I'm going to try to guide you through step by step how to make some really good bread and also some great food with your sourdough starter. So let's start off with the basics of how to create and feed a sourdough starter. So one of the first things you want to consider is what kind of container do I want to put my sourdough starter in. Two things to keep in mind here. It has to have a way to get airtight. And I would also recommend you pick something that can fit in your refrigerator for kind of long-term storage when you can't feed it. I use like a 2.5 quart Corningware. I've also used like a large glass bowl. I know people use plastic containers. Anything like that will work. So this is my starter after I pull it from the fridge. Here's some things you're going to need for this step. You're going to need a measuring cup, some sort of mixing spoon, and also a little bit of all-purpose flour here. So the basic step that I use for feeding my sourdough is a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts flour to 1 part water. So I feed it with a cup of all-purpose flour, which is what I just put in there, and a half cup of just normal tap water, nothing special here. So that's what I do. Depending on how big of a starter you want to run, you might use a smaller quantity, but always 2-to-1, 2 parts flour, 1 part water. After I put it in there, mix it up real good. I'm trying to incorporate all the flour and water together and mix it together. So I'm just showing here me kind of stirring through. You want to try to avoid a couple things here. You want to try to make sure you don't have any big clumps of flour just sitting in the mix like I showed there. And you also want to scrape down the sides of the bowl. You want to try to get all the flour off the side of the bowl and into the mix. And you want to be mixing up what's going to be your starter there. So make sure it's mixed really well. There's no extra flour hanging out. That creates problems. So you want to get kind of one big consistency going together. That's what it's going to look like when you're all mixed together. It's going to look like a real thick pancake batter. So my sourdough starter was in the fridge for about 2 weeks, and after I mix it up well here, you'll start to see little signs of life. You'll start to get these little, air pockets or air bubbles you see here. Means that the sourdough starter is actually eating the flour and water that I'm putting in there. So that's just the beginning of this coming back to life. So after it's fed and mixed up well, I'm just going to lay the lid loosely on top there. I don't have to worry about sealing it up and just leave it out on the counter. So if you're creating a sourdough starter for the first time, what you're going to do is after you make that first feeding, you're going to wait 12 to 24 hours and you're going to dump off half of it down the drain, and then you're going to feed it again. You're going to keep repeating this. So if you feed at night, wait till the next morning, dump off half of it, feed it again. If you fed in the morning, wait till the nighttime before you go to bed, dump off half of it and feed it again. You're going to need to repeat this process probably for a good 7 or 8 days before your starter actually picks up wild yeast from the air and starts to work. So it's going to be frustrating because for about 5 or 6 days there, maybe a little more, it's going to look like nothing's going on. It's just going to look like flat and pancake mix and not a whole lot. And then magically one day you're going to come down and you're going to check it, and it's going to be bubbling and it's going to rise a little bit, and you'll see a big difference, and that's when your sourdough starter is ripe. And then you can use it for the next steps that I'm going to put in the next video. If your sourdough starter is going and you had it in storage, you want to pull it out and feed it. This is also how you do it to get it ripe, to pull from and be able to make things with it. Or you can feed it like I show in the video, snap the lid on and put it in the fridge if you're not going to use it for a little while. Typically, if I feed a sourdough starter that I have going, the cup of flour and the half cup of water, I can put the lid on and put it in the fridge, and it's good for almost up to a month, if you don't want to work with it or you don't have time for it right now. So that's the basics. Just stick with it in the beginning. It's frustrating to get the sourdough starter going. But like I said, after about a week, you'll understand and it'll start to make a little more sense when things start to click and happen for you. So good luck and keep at it.